All right, see if this one works. Send it out to you too. Is that pulling up okay? Good. Awesome. All right, so like I said, we're going to go through a few examples of changing the DOM with JavaScript, which you guys covered a little bit already. We've actually gone through this a few times, and then you'll kind of understand why jQuery is so helpful. All right, and it's all nicely prepared for today. You see? Okay. Oops. Getting too big there. Okay. All right, so everybody can see this, right? Yes, in the back, good. All right, so we have a div, right? The ID is an empty div, okay? Basic. Anybody have any questions about this first step? What we're doing here? We have a div, we have an ID, right? What's that? We'll find out. We'll find out. Yeah. Okay. All right, so what am I doing here, right? We have the empty div, right? We have some JavaScript. I'm setting a target div by using the document.getElementById empty div, right? Now, why does it say getElementByClass? Anybody? So it's what? Okay, right. Exactly right. Why did I use a not yet, JavaScript. jQuery. You guys are going to find out why the pound sign and the dots and everything are so important in a little bit, but I won't get into it right now. Right. So document.getElementById empty div. That's pretty long-winded, but you memorize that. That's how we're assigning this, right? Target div is now that, right? So what's happening next, right? I have target div dot text content equals hello friends. What's this going to do? What's the text content method going to do? That's right. Right. Well, inside of what? Yeah. Let's find out. All right, there it is. Let's find out where it is. All right, there it is, whole friends. I want to show you guys the source, though, of the code, right? So it doesn't say hello friends up there, does it? Right? This is the page as it rendered, right? This is the before, right? Before the DOM got a hold of it, right? This is the plain old, boring old HTML and JavaScript was, right? So we can come in here in the DOM, right, and see what's going on. Oh, look, we entered in hello friends, right? We can change it. Right? All right. Is everybody with me so far? Big power clap? All right. We're going to move right through this. I just know it. And some of this is review. I totally understand, but okay. All right. So what am I doing next? Okay. So now I'm calling it target div of empty div, right? Saying hello, friends, right? And then I'm writing again, target div.text content, a pleasure to meet you. So what's it going to say between the empty div now? What's it going to say? What is it going to say? Is it going to say hello, friends? Who thinks it's going to say hello, friends? Who thinks it's going to say a pleasure to meet you? No? For those that said it's a pleasure to meet you, why? Anybody? Flashing the code, all right? It's not appending to it, right? It's replacing it. Let's find out if we're right. All right, pleasure to meet you. If you look really quick, I bet you can see both. Nope, too fast. We just count to 1 to 1,000,000 like we did. No, never. All right, so let's see. Let's step through. Okay. All right, so what do we do next? Can you guys the back see this? The type got a little small. Let me see if I can. All right. There we go. Okay, so what's that? Oh, okay, that's good. Yeah, good call. Okay, so now what are we doing? The text document says hello, friends, right? And This is something you guys haven't seen before, right? In JavaScript, we can actually create an element, right? Div. Typically, it's written a little differently if you're going to do this, but for this point, I guess I'll make it. Typically, you see it written like that, but don't worry about it. Write it like that. That's fine. This will create an opening and a closing tag. Yeah, believe it or not, right? So now we have this new object, right, which is a div, right? And we're saying, oh, hey, in that new div, put some text in it. A pleasure to meet you, right? Well, who can tell me what this next line is going to do?
And a pleasure to meet you to the existing code of table front.
So I have the original, right? The target div right up here. And I'm appending child new div, right? So I'm taking that object and putting it underneath it, right? Does everybody agree with Pierre? Is that what's going to happen? It's going to say, hello, friends. A pleasure to meet you. Who thinks it's going to say that? Who thinks it's going to say a pleasure to meet you? All right, so let's find out. All right. Oops, real small. So if I looked at my actual view source code, do you guys think I'll see 2 divs or 1? 1, why? Right. Yeah, there's nothing in there. There was nothing in here to actually create the other div. That was done in JavaScript, right? So that would be created while the DOM is being rendered, right? Within the DOM. So let's take a look at the include here, the inspector here quick. Look at that. There's our magic div right there. Oh, you guys see, holy cow, that's small. Yeah, isn't that nice? It's pretty cool, huh? All right, let's go one last example. I'll send this example out to you guys so you can kind of see how it's being used. Keep wanting to use a different tool. All right. All right, so I'm going to create a, what's this called again? Class, right? Called Fancy, right? It's going to have a 100 pixel size and it's going to be green. All right. Once again, we still have our empty div, that div, right? We're doing some other JavaScript down here. What are we doing? So we're setting that target div to the empty div, right? So we know the target div is going to be that, right? It's a representation of that, right? And we're going to put some content in the middle of it. Hello, friends. We'll do that again, right? We're going to create another div, right? We're going to put some words in that div. We don't know where it's going yet. At this point, we don't have any idea where that's going to live. In fact, we haven't even applied it. If it wasn't for the next line here, it wouldn't exist on the page, right? It doesn't even know where to put it. It just says, hey, you have a div someplace, right? But we're penning it to the child, right, of the target, right? So it's going, boom, it's going right underneath it. Here's another one you guys haven't seen yet, right? So with that new div that we just created, we're setting an attribute, right? Class Fancy. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I just had a question about the appending child.
Mm-hmm.
So does that put it inside the existing div or just under?
Well, inside technically, because it's a parent of whatever child is inside it.
So if you did like create another div, put that underneath?
Totally. Yep.
Okay.
Yep, because it's another child.
Outside, inside.
Right. Another thing you'll learn is prepend, which would be before, but
Yeah, so your entity becomes some kind of container in which you want to.
totally. Yeah. Because you keep creating children inside it, right? Okay. So set attribute, right? You hear me say attrib, but that's coming down the line, right? The reason why I'm showing you all this stuff is because you're going to see how crazy easy this is with jQuery, right? This is a lot of complicated stuff, right? I'm not going to lie. Document.getElementID, right? I mean, append child, right? Set attribute, right? This stuff is not easy, right? So what's set attribute going to do? Who can tell me what that's going to do? Let's just take a step back. Yeah, go ahead.
Apply the CSS, like from the fancy class.
So what's that line of code going to look like inside this div?
To agree with class.
Yeah, that actually does that, guys. This will actually put an attribute inside that div tag that says class equals fancy, right? If I wanted to add another class inside of it, what would I do? What if I would, oh, wait, hold on. I'm going to say not so fancy. All right. Happen, guys. This is totally happening. Red, green. You guys know that color. All right. So who thinks it's going to show the not so fancy class? All right. Who thinks it's going to show the fancy class and the not so fancy class? Let's find out. Ooh, looks like it's a not so fancy. All right. So how would I add the not so fancy and the fancy together? Who can make a guess or who knows? If I want to add two classes to this, let's see. I'll make this a little less complicated. Let me here. I'm going to change this to. Wow, there it is. All right, so now we should just get a bold, right? Just a bold, no size, no anything, right? Okay, so what happens if I want to add both of those classes? Who can tell me how I'd do that together?
What do you mean by having the two classes?
I want the new div to have both fancy and not so fancy together. What were you gonna say? No. Oh, that's good. Let's yeah, you're thinking through it. Let's just find out if that works, guys. Boom, there it is. Is it bold? No one knows. All right, fancy, not so fancy, right there. So we just built this class with JavaScript, right? No HTML at all was pre-rendered, right? It was just we built this, we told it where to go, we gave it a class, and we gave it some content, all in JavaScript, right? Who's with me with that? You guys get it? If it's 5, awesome. Do you want to send out that example, you guys? Do you mind? Oh, sweet. So that's this. Kind of familiarize yourself with all of it. Just get really comfortable with it. Like I said, I hate showing you guys something that I'm going to completely show you a different way to do in like an hour. But it's really important that you understand the reason why jQuery exists. Okay. All right. All right. Okay. Seriously, guys, I ran into a lot of you guys last Wednesday when I was here forgetting semicolon, right? I think it's a pretty funny. Like programs will know, like prime suspect. Like sometimes you see that tattoo, like the semicolon, right? I'm always like, dude, you're supposed to be a coder. Like, no, I had like a life thing. I go, okay. All right, so let's do this, guys. We're gonna generate some HTML with JavaScript. We're gonna send you a file called drink list, I think, and we'll go through. So we'll work on that about 15 minutes. We're also gonna do some partner stuff today and some other things today. But let's get through this one first and see how familiar you guys are with it. Do we select it? Select. All right.
Remember what I said at the end of the class on Saturday, guys. This is a good opportunity for you to start storing your class files in a repo. Practice your Git skills. Right? Make a folder. Put these class files in that folder. Commit to that repo, right? Practice those skills.
Yeah.
Well, yes.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then inside, yeah, yeah. And then inside was
Folder is like. It is.
So, yeah. So they're also right.
So these are. It's. So I think. I use this.
Oh,
Go back to just ground. And have. You can fly. Like I do this is fun. It's just all in here. Yeah. Just bring them. I do.
so this would be HTML. Inside of the IO.
So, no. Oh, this is right. That's just my suggestion. That's it. That was it. That was just me.
I want you guys to work through this a little bit, and then, okay, so you help me.
Exactly. And that's what you look at.
So then my main tag for submitted homework responses.
Yeah.
The one like the .io website. It was like live on the next. Yeah, yeah. And then also. So that's right.
Okay, I see. So you don't have to do which one, just say, oh, all of that. Just that little list. And right.
Just copy this. Like,
Yeah, that would be the top of the GitHub file. And in fact, well,
that is the link.
it's a bunch of that.
Oh.
That's basically, you can do like one.
Yeah.
Sorry, that would be what I would do.
Yeah. Right.
So you do what you're doing, but you know, for the older, yes. Yeah, you advertise. But that's exactly what I want to see.
Sorry, this got to be open.
Yeah. So their snippet also has some HTML. So this is just a new. So
Oh, no, it's gonna be, you just get the function.
yeah. So what you do, go to that top value. So.
Sure, that's good. You'll get anywhere that you is there any option? And what about, what are you, what is it? We're supposed to, yeah, we're supposed to generate HTML that displays all of our. So we just want to. So. First thing. Some number of.
For this.
Oh, right, before, so when I say that,
They would need to have minimum, and we could probably just get rid of that.
great.
So the outside of that function,
Right, which means you can iterate over each.
For now.
You can do the
We'll
same.
put it back later.
So how would we, so you have, so start at 0, go while, all right, so that's the very less than number. So then, so now we're basically in the real. You could have done it right, but why don't we use some of the methods that I
Yeah.
And then it says to I, so in this case, in this case, basically, I, right, so it's like this line here, three variables. So if you, so remember,
So if you're having trouble, like, yeah.
have 5 divs next to each one being about 1. So why would we basically look at it outside, do something else? Yeah, let's just go back to iterations. Oh, you actually have to, very sorry. So, rank options, perfect. So let's pick up, why don't we basically outside of the loop, outside of the loop, you can variable.
so color.
That's a good.
That's the good way.
That's a good. This thing,
Anyways,
this is why those were here.
in fact, exactly, yeah, we can put it in the various functions. YouTube, not the whole thing. All right. So basically what we're doing is we're just putting now we can transfer that. So now, back to the 1.5, sorry, yes. So now we have this line. So if we were basically on text, we did like 3 did, and we did 5 in replace the content in the first rate. And better yet, so now we can use
Yeah, you have, you need the eye.
back to with the content. So that is what we're gonna have. So inside our loop, basically. So inside your loop, we can do online or
Yes.
equal, absolutely.
Equal.
We want to get some elements. So let's make it right.
All right.
Yeah.
And how would you get if we're iterating through the first one goes to 0, second to 0.
Yeah, so
That represents the dynamic changing. So
We're turning.
so three represents iteration loop.
It will become a variable, right?
Three will be, it is a variable. No, it's okay, it's okay. So it's not an array, it's an item in. So if I say that's the array, let's string goes bracket. Let's string goes bracket 1.
But I mean, it's.
I'm trying into it. We're trying to do automatic just to see it. So for the first time the link runs, so what's drink was so for the first iteration of a drink is so it's not great. You're right. I know. So the point is now we have these are the drink in the iteration. So how do you so see this is why don't we make another like div? Basically, after that drink, this time it's the
So they are options.
let's choose that. Yeah, exactly. So that contains
Yeah, it looks like also.
So
I disagree.
we want to know when insert drink that's where you do this.
So now I can
This comes up as new div. First, you are trying to do that. How do you do this? What are we trying to insert text into? Drink is nine. And so, right, so we say drink. You're saying, I want
First of all, what is this saying? Grab, create,
put that thing, in this case, div, inside that.
So.
Always mixing it up. We're sort of storing. We're storing right. I don't need to. What we're saying now of drink is not drink. So this is interesting. Yes, exactly. So now it's just a blank because we're not having ads, but we have inside this box. The next one is
So children, so
What's the array of Well, I can insert the div that you're on that just the page. Does that make sense?
Kind of, yeah.
Nothing wrong with
Yeah. Shouldn't need that. But yeah, a little bit. Kind of read the document.
Yeah, okay, good.
No.
So, function methodology. Let's take out
So, first of all, what we're creating is we want to create and the side of it is
so you understand what these are
right? So that's one.
39.
So,
Container is.
call it. So let's call it.
Exactly. So any element, we're not saying that's not it. We're saying anything, right?
All right, so what it's going to affect the model. So we got to say
What is that? Make sure you have my clear list.
I know that.
Drink less bracket.
Oh, it's a few, right?
so we're creating a this is why it's
So that's the word. Drink less bracket. Specific.
I'm worried about it.
So we're creating an element of. Okay, you remember how it created that's so we're gonna create and it's gonna be we're just going to drink right now.
It's this did.
And then finally,
Right?
We put the drink.
So what's that?
then
Because we have we want to add something to each side.
yeah.
So it's still, we're still in like, yeah.
You can get me out of that.
Inside the picture,
Literally, you want to have
of your
So.
So we want to say, right? We want to
So you could have
we want to go through each one of those, right? So how do we do it, right? Okay, so first of all, where's that content? What's that? For sure, right? Look at
we just got the right way, right? To keep track of it. So in just like that's underneath it, I'm going to say class on it. Although in this case,
sorry. So I'm going to say,
well,
we have
so yeah, jQuery is Java.
So I'm just going to call this.
Library written in Java. So it is, that's you can't do jQuery not Java.
That's good. Well, it's like this big, like around. I just had a name for something.
And jQuery offers many benefits that
Right.
don't get with Java.
But, okay, so now we're going to add something.
So this is back one. This is the reason why
So I'm going to iterate this.
people would have read JavaScript.
So how do I say what's going to be?
What browser are you using? If this browser uses JavaScript,
So I have to grab
it's
that.
right. So jQuery can come on. It's like, the reason I want to make it is I'm gonna write it to Joanne and do all that for you. So you can just do these jQuery packages, and I designed it so it will operate the same. All the time. You write one jQuery, it's the same everywhere. That's really for jQuery, but then.
So what's that going to do? You know, temporary?
There's nothing you can say right now.
Right.
He just wrote it this way.
Yeah, in people, right?
Which is great.
Except for right? You don't know where it's going to go. Ultimately, now it's a
jQuery is a library, which means it has to be interpreted.
You don't know where it's going to go. Right. So,
So most modern brand.
that's what like pending it through the trial.
So
now we have digital live. Now we have to put that.
So library, you can make this code well. I'm not saying you weren't, I'm saying that there's still an enormous amount of data to try that out. So remember, it's one of those things once you have to see it.
So play around with those changes.
Try some stuff around and see if it's
Your name was.
All right, guys, our time's about up, so that's a tricky one. I just want to walk through it quick. Who can tell me what the most challenging part of this exercise was for people? What was the most challenging part? Yeah, go ahead. The methods, right? That's tricky, right? Like I don't think anybody's expected to memorize that. So if you took really good notes, you would have done really well, right? But if you didn't, you're like, I don't know if this is important or not important. How would you know if create element P created a P tag, right? It's really tricky stuff. How would you know that text content was the right method to use to add that to it, right? So this is kind of where pseudocode helps out a little bit because we were given a problem, right? We go, okay, how would I do this? And you can kind of sketch out the ideas of how to do it, right? Okay, first I need to say this top div. I need to say I gotta create a variable, right? So I'm gonna say, okay, I'm gonna call this drink div, okay? But that's gonna grab that particular div and assign it to a variable. I know I need to do that. I know I need a for loop because I have an array. I have a bunch of stuff I need to go to, right? So okay, I need a for loop. And then what do I need to do? Well, I gotta put stuff inside that original div. So in the for loop, how do I handle that? So if you think pseudocode when you're solving a lot of these problems, it'll help you get to the next step. Because then you can go, oh, well, I know I needed this, 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 and like, but I don't know how to do this one, right? Then you got a different problem. Then you got kind of a better problem. Because you're like, well, it's just this one thing that I'm missing, right? It's not like, I don't know, I'm overwhelmed, I have no idea where to start, right? It's like, now you have something to start with, right? You pseudocoded it, you understand what needs to be done, you just might not understand how to do it, which is a good problem to have, right? Understanding what needs to be done is more than half the battle. So I'm going to walk through it real quick. Do you guys have any questions before I start doing that? We'll select this, the solution out to you too. And please try to make your solutions work if you weren't able to in class. Okay. So like I said, first thing I did, right, is I assigned a variable to this, right? We had that div up front, that element. So I said, okay, that's the drink div. Okay, that's going to be the drink div. I'm going to use that later. How did I refer to it? By using the ID, right? Right. Now we have this huge list of arrays, right? We have all these different coffee types, right? So I'm like, okay, how do I go through that? Some of you forgot this one, right? The length of the array, right? And that's another method. Some of you commented out that it was about 9 of them. Is that the right way to do it? Or do you just always make a variable, right? If you can, do it, right? So we got it right, which is great. Inside that for loop, right? I mean, remember, the pseudocode kind of took place here. So what do I want to do first? I want to create a p tag or a div or a span or whatever. I want to create a tag I'm going to wrap inside this drink. Okay, so I'm going to do that, right? Did I have to do it that way, right? Not necessarily. I could have done this a completely different way, but this is one way to do it, right? So I created this variable, right? The p tag. I knew it was going to be a p tag. I used text content which is just a part of the array. So it's looping through, right? We get the 0, the 1, the 2, 3 indexes, right? Assigned it. And then it has nowhere to go. But now I have a p tag that has the drink in it, right? First step. What do I do with the next, right? Well, I got to assign it. So where does it go? I appended it to the child of that original div. Okay, so remember we just went through that a little bit right before we went through this exercise. I appended it to the parent div and added to it, right? Kept adding to it every time we went through the div. Okay? This is tricky. How do you guys feel about this exercise 55? Be honest. It's okay if it's not a 5, honestly. Good. Good. 1. It's tricky. Use your example, right? And we'll slide this out to you, and then compare it. See where you might have missed it. Okay. Remember, the pseudocode part is the most crucial part, right? Figure out what you have to do and then do it. Don't just start coding and expect it to work. All right. Ooh, how are we on time? All right, I'm gonna start it. I'm gonna talk about jQuery for a little bit, then we'll take a break. I just don't want there to be too much time at the end. So, does that timing look about right with you guys? I want to. Should we break after or before? Oh, okay. Thanks. All right. All right. Oh, you guys can see the bottom. That's the best part. I see a little iPhone 5 in this guy. Please do, yeah. Yeah, he prefers organic JavaScript, right? This guy. All right, so let's talk about it right. So using JavaScript alone isn't ideal in these type of situations, right? So there's a simplified syntax, right? Oh, you don't, what? It's no good? Nick's shaking his head. Like what? Oh, are you this guy? I didn't know you were this guy. You need to wear your scarf next week. So regardless of what some people say, there's a simpler syntax to this, right? Instead of saying document.get element by ID, there's a simpler syntax, right? And jQuery makes that really easy, okay? Now, if you guys remember the concept of a library, who wants to tell me what a CDN and a library is? Who can tell me? Somebody I haven't talked to in a while. Yeah, that's right. Where do we use a CDN? With Bootstrap, right? So jQuery is used the same way, right? I can download it just like we downloaded the Bootstrap library to the machine. Remember I tried that? We put all that code in that line and it works still. We're like, wow, look at that. We could do that with JavaScript. You could have a local version of jQuery. It's a library. But for this purpose that we're going to use it for, we're going to call the CDN. So every time that we call jQuery, very important, it needs to be where. It's a library we're calling externally. Where does it need to live? Right? That's where it needs to be, right? It's got to call that before anything else. So if your guys' jQuery is not working, you're like, what does this mean? The error is so familiar to me, I could see it in my sleep. You'll know, because there's a $sign that's part of the syntax in jQuery, and it goes, unexpected, I don't know what this thing is. I'm like, what happened? Okay, it's because I didn't call the CDN. Okay, so remember that. We're using jQuery just like when Bootstrap didn't work, when we didn't call that library, we didn't call that CDN. jQuery is going to have the same problem. All right. Okay, so who's with me so far? Five? Yeah. Awesome. I don't want to do the demo until after break because I don't want to get through. Oh, you have a question?
So jQuery.
Yeah.
At the top of the head,
Yeah.
JavaScript.
Oh, yeah. Yes and no. It kind of depends on the situation, right? You're always going to want the jQuery to be preceding your JavaScript, right? Just like in Bootstrap, you want your Bootstrap to precede all your custom CSS, right? In a sense. So this way it loads, but in a header stuff will load before the rest of the DOM does. There's a kind of a particular reason for it. You can also call in the footer as long as it's before everything else, especially for our examples at this time in the class. But yeah, it's a good question. Anybody else questions about basic referring to jQuery? I'm really excited to talk about it, so I want to have like your full attention after a break. So you guys have any questions before? No, and I don't believe. No, because Bootstrap doesn't. Now, the reason why I questioned it is because there are some libraries that require jQuery, right? So what happens if a CDM requires jQuery and I try to run it before jQuery? Right? It won't work. It'll say, hey, you're missing some stuff, right? So yeah, with Bootstrap, it doesn't really matter. But with some other libraries, right, some extensions and stuff, you'll need jQuery loaded first before anything is done. Yeah. So, you guys anything else? Questions? Okay, let's take just a quick break, and then we're going to dig into it. It's going to be a ton of fun. You guys can't wait. Uh, 15 minutes, I guess. We'll go to 8. Yeah. Oh, yeah, let's bring it up. Right, because this is what you're calling. So here's the idea is how do you have here the area. That's where you have the up and down, and then you take that step.
But I don't think it works.
So I guess we're just like around so we have that. You can use JavaScript. So that's where first, we want to put it. So we got the thing. And then you have this list of things. And so we're going to create each one. There we go. 0. Yeah, so then inside, we want to create yeah. So if you're like write this
Well, I would do it. So, okay. I have no idea. It's a very. That's and that's what I got is because that's a paragraph, right? So, yeah, okay, paragraph, that's fine. That's fine.
Yeah. So in this case, we're just going to say so we can go again. To do that, we get inside. You're going to put like yeah. Yeah. So backspace. That's kind of what we want to do, right? That's what it's just a bunch of those. You need to set something. You need to set like
yeah, exactly. That's what I was. It would be direct of so that's why
What we did before they got some. And then I did. We don't need to get one here. So, yeah, now the whole thing is so really just a substitute. Yeah. Okay. So yeah. Yeah. It's like strategy, right? So you can hear it, but just oh.
So, remember, this is the way. This sometimes. I know.
Just really
It's set up that then forward. The text set up and then you append all the green stuff. $48 hours. You have to take 2 extra. I got to 0 for that mistake. No, but thanks.
Yeah.
And it's the reason is very simple. What those name so I know
Yeah. Yes.
Right, so the book, and then from there, you go anywhere. And then once you get this solution, yeah. And that's for me, that's what I said, I'm the old school.
That's definitely one approach. I would say, like, yeah, do what's comfortable.
No, but anyway, if I have to read it, I can see
Right. I'm every day looking at it.
yeah, no, I know that one. Yeah, I know the more you do, the less you have to do. I could call it, you know, it doesn't matter. It's just a pair, just like we drink.
Yeah, I think the issue was before we were like, when people copied it into like.
Then they had their old zip line.
So that way.
That's okay.
Yes.
I keep it in my phone. Exactly. That's about like you like too much
All right, you guys ready? Big power clap. All right, welcome back. Yes, that took a while. How many felt better about the exercise now? 55. How you feel about it? Still a little better. A little better. Rough board. How you feel about it, guys? Come on, you were 1 or 2 before. You guys are 5 now, right? Okay. Now you guys learned all that. We're gonna unlearn it and do something totally different. Right? No, I'm just kidding. Yeah, go ahead. Man.
equal sign.
Mm-hmm.
While you did the content equal. So how do you know when?
Right, that's a good question. Right. So if you're thinking of methods, right, and functions, right, how do you send a parameter? How do you send something to that function? In parentheses, right? So if I'm sending something that's going to be a part of a method or a function, it's a parameter, right? So that's kind of the difference, right? If I'm equaling something and saying, hey, for example, this text content here is going to be this drink, right? I wouldn't use text content in parentheses just because that is part of that method, right? Technically, there's no way for that to know what that's going to right? We're just saying text content is going to say equal to this. This is what that's going to equal, right? And it is confusing. Okay, but append child, right, is saying it's not going to equal this, right? What it's going to do is saying I have this method called append child, and I know it's got to be this. This is what I'm appending to this child. In a sense, it's thinking what something is going to equal and is what something is going to be a parameter. And it's kind of learning that you kind of see what does what. Yeah. That's a fantastic question. The .text content is just plain text, right? If we, I'm not 100% sure, I don't want to say it, but if we use HTML tags in that, it should render them as just text. And I think it'll just spit out as raw text. If you use, HTML, it should use it as HTML. We'll quote me on that. I think it's just how it renders it. Is that correct, guys? I'm not sure. I think if I said, the point is text is just saying this is going to be raw text that's going to be inside this. Inner HTML says this is going to be HTML that's inside this. Okay? So to be honest, I don't know. If I said text content and I put a p tag in it, would it work? No, it didn't. No clue. Let's find out, right? That's what this is all about, right, guys? Let's see, I want to do like a break. Does it still render it as a tag? Did it?
No, it doesn't render
It renders that. Oh, good. Okay, so there's the answer. Do you want to see it? Just make sure that they're not lying to us. I don't even think you guys did it, so that's fine. No, hold on, let me see. You know what? I don't want. I don't want to do it. I'll take your word for it. All right. Do we believe them, guys? Yes. All right. Fine. All right. So let's get into it. Right. Let's talk about jQuery. All right. We got Brady here. All right. Is there iPhone 5? All right. Okay. So jQuery, right, is a cross-platform platform. It's a JavaScript library, as we talked about, and it's for easier client-side scripting, right? It makes it easier to do certain things. So we had all those document, right, .get element by ID, right? It makes that a lot simpler. So what does that look like, right? So let's talk about this first. Okay. So right, dynamically inserting, updating, removing HTML from what? What is it removing it from? The DOM. Very good, right? What does that stand for? Document object model, which is essentially what your browser renders, right? Okay, so registering click or other change events, like what JavaScript does that, right? What? Maybe there's a simpler way, right? Animating HTML elements, right? That's pretty cool. We haven't really gotten into that with JavaScript yet, right? Downloading data from databases, right? We can actually use data from databases with jQuery done the right way, okay? And much more. Salesy. All right. So what's it look like, right? What's the first thing we're gonna add? We're gonna add a CDN, right? This is what it looks like, right? This is a jQuery CDN. There's millions of them, but this is one particular one. This one has an integrity key. You don't have to worry much about that. It's just basically saying that it is what it is. Don't worry about that. Don't worry about the cross on origins anonymous. That all gets into content security policy. It has nothing to do with what we're doing in this class. Just remember this line, right? This is just straight up. This is the CDN we're calling. This is what it's going to do, just like we did Bootstrap. Okay? Make sense, everybody? Yes? First part? Yes? Which 5? Get it? Here's the exciting part. This is fun, guys. This is really exciting, right? This is how we call this is how we do a selector. This is how we call an element, right? Who remembers what the hashtag means? It's ID, right? If this was a dot, what would it be? It's just that easy. We use the same syntax for CSS as we do jQuery, right? So we know there's going to be an element on the page called click me. That's going to be a what? An ID. It's an ID. We don't even know what it is yet. It doesn't even say what. We just know that that's what's going to happen. That's how easy the jQuery syntax is. It's not get element by ID, document.get element by ID, click me, right? It's not that, it's just this, right? Okay, so still looks a little more confusing, but down here, what are we doing? So on click is our method. So we're gonna click me, on click, we're gonna call a function, right? That function is down here, I would click, right? This is a pretty simple method, right? This is a pretty easy syntax, but it's really important because this is something we're gonna be using a lot of. So write it down, take a mental picture. This is how it works, right? There's a element, right? There's a method, and there's a function. It's like, what is it you're gonna do? How's it gonna call? What's the thing gonna be? The action we're gonna take, and the thing that's gonna happen. All right? Does that make sense, everybody? You with me? Fist of 5? Okay. This isn't all that different than what we're doing with JavaScript, right? I mean, really, we're just calling the element a little differently. We're using a selector a little differently. All right. Okay, that's me. All right, so you guys know what's at the top? It's a different location, but it's Cloudflare, right? And what is that? TDM library, right? Good. I have my empty div out here. You guys remember this example? We just went through it. Look at this. Oh, right? Using empty div by ID, right? Adding some HTML to it. Hello, friends, right? Appending something to it. It's like the menu. Remember that first example we did before we got into the drink example, right? So I'm just going to open this up, see what we're looking at. All right. Remember that? Do you want to see the first one first, just to compare the two? We'll do it that way. Okay. All right. So look, remember in JavaScript, we have to say, okay, we're going to say this target ID is up here, right? We document element ID, empty div, that's what it is, and we're going to add some text content. Right? Remember that's what we did. And we say, okay. Now, how's that done in jQuery? That's it. It's the same thing, right? Saying, hey, on this page is an empty div. It's got this ID. It's empty div. I'm going to put some HTML in it, and I'm going to append it. This information right to the end of it. All right. You guys any questions so far? The syntax is new, so just kind of take it all in. You guys any questions? Mr. 5, you all with me? Sort of? Yeah. Yeah. Cool. Yeah. All right. I'm gonna send out the one of the examples in a couple seconds too. So yeah, do you already send it? What do you mean? Because we're adding it to the end of it, right? So there's a difference between saying this is what the content's going to be and this is what the content's going to be at the end of it, right? The append. The pre-append pushes it before, but append puts it afterwards. So what would happen if I said, what if I switch these two? Does anybody know? Let's find out. Right? So what happened was I replaced everything inside this div, even though I appended it here, added to the end of it, I replace it all by this. So the appending is saying there's something in this, and I'm going to add it to the end of it, right? Which would be the opposite of prepend, which I don't know if we should get into. Okay, so let's say I did this. This is just, and all this stuff is learned, guys. Don't worry about memorizing all this like right now. See? append and prepend. Did you guys get that? The difference there? The other word? Yeah. I was able to say, oh, hey, just put that before any content that's in there, right? Maybe I was doing a list and I wanted to go through reverse order and prepend everything, right? Instead of appending it to the end. All right.
That's gonna become very useful. Yeah,
So
so
you guys can maybe say there may be activity coming where appending might be part of something that we did. We may or may not be doing a similar exercise that we just ran through with some of this new stuff we're learning. All right. All right, so let's take a second to do this real quick. Okay. So what's the first thing we do? We have an empty div up here. What are we adding to that div? You tell me. What's being added to that div? What's being put inside that div? That's it, right? H1 today, right? Okay. Look at how I'm declaring this. Say, hey, the new div, right? So instead of doing that, remember that create element piece that we did? Oh, we're creating a new element right now. It's called new div. That's the new element that we're creating. We haven't put it anywhere, but we created it. We're ready to go with it, right? Remember how we created those p tags, right? So it's say, hey, I have a div ready to go, right? Okay. Inside that, there's going to be, it's a pleasure to meet you, right? It's ready to go. It's not even on the page anywhere. It's just assigned to the new div variable that lives someplace, right, in the DOM. It hasn't even been put on the page yet, right? What are we doing with it? Where's it going? Anybody tell me? Right? After any content that would be inside there already, right? It's appended to anything that's an empty div, right? It's wrong? Yeah.
So will new div be the child of or be listed?
Say it again?
So will new div become the child of it? And then or will it be div after that?
Child, right? Because it's gonna be inside of it. Even it's appended to it, right? It's inside it. So let's take a look to make sure, right? Okay. Great question, actually. In fact, when you see syntax error $, that's going to be a really fantastic question because you go, what the heck, right? That's jQuery's way of calling. That's jQuery's library, right? That's their syntax.
You call the jQuery library.
Well, as long as you call it, yeah, as long as you do that in the right order, right? So let's take a look. I got my something else up here. Hold on. Okay. Right. That's it. That's all the $ means, right? I can, instead of saying, remember this was get element document dot get element by ID empty div. It's just a $ empty div, right? With the hash. Right? It's the same thing. It's just an easier way to do it. Yeah. Yeah, it's really sweet. Okay, so let's take a look at this real quick. What do we got? Hello, friends. Nice to meet you. We just created this, right? Let's take a look at the actual code, okay? So inside that was hello, friends, right? And we appended it as pleasure to meet you, remember? So it added a child element inside of it, right? So we see the hello, friends here, right? And then we see the new div variable being called. Don't know what's going to happen. We know there's going to be some text inside of it. And we see that's appended to the empty div, right? To the end of what other content's in there. You guys with me on that part so far? Kind of a lot of information. So if you're with me, it's cool. If you're not, it's fine. Totally fine. We're going to go over this again. All right. How do you mean? Oh, well, you know, it depends on whatever, right? I don't have to have these tags in here, right? I could just say, well, I mean, let's just do this, right? I could say, hello, friends, you know, a pleasure to meet you, all in one line. The span tag just happens to be separating the two. So what does this look like? Right? Sorry, it's really small. Ah, wrong thing. All right. Right. So it doesn't necessarily need to have that particular syntax. I just added those tags in there just for a difference, right? A visual difference. But yeah, well, you can do whatever you want to, right? I could make these all divs. I could put an image in here. I could append an image to the end of it if I wanted to, right? I could add bootstrap elements to it. It all doesn't matter. It's literally saying you have an element, you're going to create stuff inside it, right? You guys with me on that? All right, so let's take a look at this one quick. Okay, remember before we added that fancy CSS? Remember the green? All right, so I'll walk through this quick. This one says text. Remember the difference between talking about text and HTML, right? Text probably won't have any HTML tags in it because it would render it as, okay? Calling a new div, because remember the syntax, right? Remember that, okay? We have a new div element called new div, all right? We're going to add some text inside it. We don't know what it's going to be, but we're going to append it. Now we do. We're going to append it to new div, right? We're going to append it to empty div, right? Right at the top, right there, right? It's going to add it to it. To the end of whatever else is in there. Hello, friends, right? Now what? Remember how we did this before? Yeah.
So why are there dollar signs? Dollars is how you call the.
I know, it's an excellent question. Okay, so, right. So the benefit of using jQuery library, right, is for selectors, right? If you think about it, there's a lot of other benefits, but for the purposes of this right now, there's a couple other methods that we're going to get out of this, you'll see. But right now, we're just kind of showing, hey, look, I can make this div selector. I can call this element just by doing a $sign, right? I can just do that. Down here, it's saying, I already have this variable. I'm going to do exactly the things that I can do inside of jQuery within that, right? It already knows it's jQuery. It already knows this is a jQuery style element because I call it up. Right? It knows I can use jQuery methods just because I call it. I don't have to really say, hey, it's the jQuery thing. It's like, yeah, I already got that. I'll figure that out. You know? A really good question would be, in addition to that, is can I use JavaScript methods with this as well? Could I say inner HTML instead of text? You guys think? What do you think? Yeah. Why not, right? Doesn't matter. The method, it's an extension to JavaScript, right? It's not a replacement, right? It says, hey, I got an easier way to do text. Not text content, just text. It's called text. It's fine. jQuery. This wouldn't work without the library number, and it wouldn't work without assigning this, right? It knows that this is a jQuery object, right? Okay. So this is another one. Who remembers what this was in JavaScript? The very, very bottom. What if I wanted to add something here? What is that? Attribute, right? You know what the syntax looked like? Anybody? Set attribute, right? Class fancy. That's what it was. So instead of that, jQuery's like, no. This attribute, whatever the attribute's going to be, fancy, right? This is handy, but let me show you guys something else. What happens if I did this? Think that'd work? Right? All I'm saying is an attribute is something that's inside the HTML tag, right? So I'm creating this div, right? Up here, saying, oh, new div, it's going to be a div. Here's what's going to be inside it. An attribute inside that div is going to be an ID, and it's going to be fancy. So it's going to say ID equals fancy, or class equals fancy, or a million other things, right? All kinds of attributes you can do. You look it up, see all the different types of things you can do with HTML. All right? So it's a little easier than set attribute, right? All right, you guys with me so far? Cool. Can we send that one out, guys? Awesome. So play around with that a little bit. If you get a chance, let's do that. Yeah, let's do the unsolved drink one again with jQuery. Do you have that one? I'll select that out. Did I send that? Oh, you did? Oh, sorry. So yeah, let's do that same exact exercise using the jQuery. library. Okay. Don't use the create element method, right? Don't use the inner HTML method. Don't use a append child method. Don't use any of those JavaScript things. We're going to try to do this all in jQuery, okay? If you don't remember the syntax of something or whatever, come back to it. Just know what you have to do in what order, okay? Oh, don't forget to incorporate the jQuery, right? The library. What? Looks like a lot of you are going to the jQuery website to pull up some syntax. That's a good idea.
Oh, you did, okay.
Oh, no, sorry.
Yeah, let me know if you guys have any trouble finding the jQuery library. Right?
Yeah. I'm sure, like. jQuery is pretty nice. They usually don't like break.
That's what they were doing. Oh, you don't need this.
Go ahead. The software base is not going to be slow.
Oh,
Yeah, yeah, that's, yeah.
What this is that?
Well, you don't have to. That looks good to me. You know, what you're saying. Now, this doesn't have, okay, I see. Then you're, so you're, what you're doing is creating a fire valve. And you're adding. So this is going to work right here. This line, the reason for that is because. So what we literally put on
oh.
Yeah, I mean, you could have, I mean,
Right, because you're saying.
You guys want to raise your hand? Anybody have any questions or problems?
Yeah, okay, so. Yeah. Realistically, you can say, so this generally that's the first. The second part is it's kind of so I say okay, this is okay. So we're on the right track. So but there's two different kinds of syntax.
That's just the page I created for myself with all the resources I need. I need to remember passwords and login and domain name. So if I know that goal I knew that needed to cancel everything before. And then the project I will be working on, and I'm gonna reorganize that needs to be. That's very nice. Yes. Sorry, I learned that from a young friend a long time ago. Where are you from? You took that, yeah, I think you told me that already, so.
So this is so
It doesn't matter. So you can actually do this code without the. I jQuery, that's what I have done. I actually did that. That's really nice, but that's not enough.
right, except for right. This variable this needs to be separated. And you're going to say this. So now let's let's append it to drink data.
Anyone have any more questions?
If you want to have somebody else, that's fine. So far, putting the link to the CDN, but that's where I am. That's a big challenge.
Okay, very close. So we don't close the okay, script source, all that's very easy to have.
Yeah.
So the goal here is to open so far.
Yeah, I know.
So what we should probably start is probably a very target.
That's all I got.
Don't worry.
Let's say drinks or drink options, whatever everyone's drinks. And then the jQuery to do this. Space $sign. Single quote. Single word. Single word. They both work? No, that's a curly. Single quote. Oh. Single quotes. Parentheses. Because that's single quote. And now we want to grab.
Yeah,
Because now divs, the idea is drink options. So it's the divs. You could have pound. That's what pound drink options. Drink option that would exactly like that. Use all the methods. Right? Okay. No, something.
So now we have a variable. So now what we probably want to do is we want to iterate.
Yeah.
Loop for a loop, yeah.
Yeah.
That's correct. That's correct. But that's correct. However, what we want to do is this is our while condition. We say while I is less than.
Yeah. Less.
While I yeah, I less than.
And then you have drink.
And then a sign. Now, how are you gonna get from one to the next? Okay, good.
That's so far.
So far, so good.
I think you can join us if you want. All
So
right.
we need a curly brace after that. Not a semicolon, just curly brace, because for loop has context.
Yes, absolutely. Just brace.
Answer. Okay. So now that we have this, we need some variables. One, we need a variable for the specific drink. So I might make a variable called drink. Yeah, so I bar drink, right? Bar drink. Yeah, equals. And then how do we get for each iteration of the loop? We want to get one of the items. So remember, arrays are right.
Yeah.
Arrays are so we don't have to go 0 or 1. They want to what represents 0 or 1. What variable? Yes, but that comes out of drink. So let's say our drink equals one space drink list. Yeah. Square bracket.
I know that.
That represents the drink that is on her iteration. So now we have a variable called drink. So semicolon. So now what do you want to Yes. But how about we put drink? Yes. So how about we do a variable? Bar div or drink div or something.
Drink.
And then let's do some jQuery, some dollars. Single.
All right, guys, really quick, big power clap. All right. That was tricky, right? A little bit, because we're all thinking JavaScript, and it's hard to switch over to jQuery, right? It's a little bit difficult to make that transition, right? So instead of calling a new element in the way we did, we could simply say this, right? New drink div. We can wrap it. Say, hey, I got this new thing. It's going to be a div. It's going to have this drink item in here, right? Flash div. I don't need to say it in the same way as we did it in plain organic JavaScript, right? It's saying, hey, it's going to be a div. Let's put something inside it. I can say, hey, look, there's going to be a div here. And that's what's going inside it. So it's simply saying this whole line saved us 2 lines in JavaScript. So a lot of us got kind of hung up with how we did it before and went, why doesn't that work here, right? The reason it doesn't work is because, well, this is how you do it. Okay? So basically what we're doing here is calling a bunch of different divs. You didn't have to call it separately. Create the object and then append to it. We just were able to say, hey, I got this drink, this element that's going to be a div. Content's going to be the drink list. And then, well, of course, what I'm doing at the end, I'm attaching it to my main parent one. Okay? Questions? Yeah.
So with the selector, so how does this actually work? So if it's, because that line looks very similar to the drink div line. So it doesn't work that if, so it tries to create a query basically out of whatever's between the parentheses, and if it can't find that anywhere in the DOM, then it creates an element.
Yes, I think essentially what you're saying is if there wasn't this
If
particular
that
thing,
existed somewhere already in the document, then new drink div would point to that thing that already exists. If you're querying something that doesn't already exist, by default, it creates something.
okay, yes. So if this was div drink one in div,
And that already had been created somewhere, then you would get, it would find that and that object back.
yes, that would be this object, right? But what instead of doing that, we're assigning new object. Yes, you're right.
Well, that's what I was trying to figure out, because the syntax is that it looks like the same for
Right.
picking up an existing object as for creating a new object.
No,
I was
and
doing a little
that's-
reading trying to figure out.
That's an excellent point. Yeah, don't get too hung up on, but you're thinking ahead. You are absolutely, yeah. Essentially, it's doing the same thing as creating a new resident and finding an old, right?
It looks like the syntax is the same for both.
Right.
So I was trying to figure out how it figures out what you actually are.
Right. If we were going to do it that way, of course we'd do it differently, but this would work that way. Sure, why not? Right? Yeah.
So I see that obviously that works, but like is it automatically so that it's already.
Yeah, it's not really assuming anything, right? It's just assuming this is going to be the string that's going to be affected. It's going to be the thing. Or in our case, it's going to be the element. That's a piece of
Yeah,
that.
but it didn't do the text.
No, not necessarily. Not for this example. There would be a way I could write it and say, okay, here's the div, and then add on the HTML and then add that to it, right?
Yeah.
And then it would replace it, right? But you don't have to do it that way. This is kind of a simpler modified version of it. I'll send this guys out to you as well, just so you can kind of play around with it and see. This is kind of confusing stuff, I know, because it's, yeah.
That is not like, what you said earlier on about JavaScript, actually it's going to force things is, and match that thing, and array, all that content, it's going to
Of course, yeah, this is manipulating the DOM, right? It has the DOMs established, right? Then we have the string options inside the div, and it's saying, hey, boom, new drink div is going to be drink list, first thing on the list. It's going through again. So the DOM is literally changing as it's building. Obviously happening instantaneously. We're not seeing it happen, but that's exactly what's happening, yeah. All right. More questions with that? Sorry, it's kind of confusing, guys. Feel free to like mess around with this a little bit, play with this on your own time, because it's really the only way you're going to get it, right? But just remember, this is the important part, right? $sign, right? We're able to call elements, we're able to use new methods and jQuery stuff simply by assigning a new object, right? All right? You're getting like a shading effect? I got you. All right. Cool. So that's fun, right, guys? All right. Okay. So yeah, actually, let me just walk through that real quick. I just want to make sure we all got it and nothing's left to any type of confusion. Okay. So important to know, right? We have this drink option, and this is what the element we're going to call, right? Remember how we did this in JavaScript? Who remembers how we called the ID? I just want to reinforce all this stuff. How do I call the ID in JavaScript? Right. Okay. How do I do it in jQuery? Right. And a lot of you forgot the hash, right, for the ID, right? And we know hash is ID because of all CSS, right? So that part's pretty easy. And we know if it's a dot, it's a class. All right. That part's pretty easy. Same thing here. We got to make sure we open up the tags for JavaScript. We're about to do some JavaScript. Go through the array. We're calling the object here. You guys can see that. I'm saying, hey, somewhere on this page is a drink options ID. I'm going to use that, assigning it to the div. Okay. For each one of the items that we're going through it, I'm creating a new, call it an element that's going to be div, the drink name / div, and we're appending that to the main div every time it goes through. Okay. Some of us, and I think we were getting just iced tea a bunch of times, right? And the reason we were getting that is because we kept just assigning this to HTML, right? So it's just getting the last one, right? So, okay, same thing. All right. Cool. How we go with that one, guys? You want to do a fist of 5? Where we at, sort of? 3? Something we have to play with. If you're not feeling totally 100% confident with it, just play with it later. I promise you, go get it. Plus, jQuery can be a ton of fun. So let's do some fun stuff, right? All right. Did I have another thing to send out? Hold on, go ahead. Oh, okay. No, I'll wait for that. Okay. All right, so one of the really cool features about jQuery is some of the functionality, right? We're using that user interface, that piece of it that makes things happen by the user, right? It's simplified, okay? Oh man. Okay, we're getting something kind of heavy, but I want to get there. So look up here. I got this H3 ID click me, right? So, okay, we have an ID assigned to an H3. We know we're going to be able to do something with that, right? You guys follow me so far? We're like, okay, something's happening here. We know we call this. We know how to call it, right? How do we call it in jQuery? Right? With the hash. Click me, right? Okay. Document ready function, right? This is something that you need to write down, memorize. This is ultra important going forward, okay? This is basically saying the whole DOM has been loaded completely, and I'm ready to do some jQuery stuff, right? That's what this means. Hey, this has been loaded. I'm ready to do some stuff now. If you guys remember, the synchronous way, the order of how JavaScript is doing is like top to bottom, right? All the time. So this says, hey, once everything's already done and ready to go, you're going to load me, right? This is going to happen afterwards. So it doesn't necessarily need, order doesn't necessarily matter where the script is. It's just going to happen when it's ready, the document's ready, okay? This is a whole new thing. So you guys have not ever heard this before, but it's super important, right? When's this going to load? Right, this function, anything inside of here, right? It's going to load when the document's ready, right? When everything else has been loaded, the DOM's ready to go, okay? Super important, right? All right, so what's this look like? Okay, I'm calling body. Why don't I have any dots or hashes with this? Oh, body tag, right? Like, hey, one of that, okay? Right? Okay, on click, right? The method, the action, sorry, can happen. Where's it going to happen? Right? And then, of course, we have the function, right? So functions are it. Close the parameter. Inside it, alert, help me, I'll be click. Right? What's that? This is just a click box. Yeah, this is all click me, right? Now notice this, guys. This function's ending here. I got the curly bracket, I got the parentheses. Semicolon, right? Oh, what the heck is this? Right? Part of the bigger function. You'll find out when you get like thousands of lines of code, right? You'll end up like, what happened to this thing? You get it. Something happened. So that's what's missing. That's got to be part. It's got to be nested inside that function. Yeah.
So like if I put this script, it's just going to run right away when I
What do you guys think? If I put it in the header, is it going to run right away? Because when it hits it in JavaScript, Or is it going to wait until document's ready? Right? What? Right. What does it mean the document's ready? It means it's all loaded, it's set to go, the DOM's ready. Nothing else is being written to the DOM. So it can be called, if you ever pay attention, not on your phone, I just covered this 10 minutes ago. All right? The document is loaded, nothing else is happening, right? This code can be anywhere on the page and it doesn't matter because it's not going to run until everything else has been loaded on the page, right? Yes?
So there's a need that I do not want to. I want something before waiting for everything else.
Mm-hmm.
I shouldn't be using that.
Right. Should not be using that. Now, the reason, or a lot of situations I can think of not using it, right? Because you want JavaScript itself to load, right? You want that library to even load before this happens, right? There's a lot of things that you want to have happen before this happens. You know what I mean? Does that make sense? We wouldn't do a lot of jQuery outside of this, right? We probably shouldn't do any jQuery outside this because we don't know if that library up in CDN out in Dallas or whatever is loaded all the way, right? We don't know, right? We want things to roll in a synchronous fashion in this stage, right? We want it to go, okay, this is going to happen first, and when everything's ready, you're all ready to go. Everything's loaded up my DOM, the library, the bootstrap, the whatever. Now I'm ready for this. Does that make sense, guys? This is inside. This is the jQuery that you want to run inside this document ready. You want the document to be ready. Christian, Nick, you guys have a question? Well, we should cover it, right? I'm just teasing. All right. All right. So what's going to happen? Let's give us a little run. All right. So what happens when I click on this thing? Anybody know? Let's find out. Whoa! I've been clicked. All right. That's it. That's all that's happening. A lot of code for that. But there's a method of this madness, guys. There's a lot of reasons that for all this to take place, right? Right? We learned that the whole document, that the library needs to be loaded, right? We learned inside the body, there's going to be a click. It's going to happen on click me, and this is what I want you to do, right? So try to memorize that syntax or write it down, right? Okay. If you haven't written it down, feel horrible because we got another thing I'm going to send out. Another activity. Oh, I think we do this as partners, though. Let's see. Nope. You guys are solo. Just kidding. You can do it in partners if you want to. And we'll slack that one out. I think that's a sandwich one, guys. Okay, so what are we going to do? We're going to, there's missing codes, right? So clicking on any of the sandwiches, right? Alert message will pop up saying something funny about the sandwich, right? Another alert's going to pop up telling the user that the number of sandwiches that they've eaten, right? There's a count thing going on, right? You'll need a counter variable. So think the stuff through pseudocode, okay? Think, what am I going to need to have happen? Look at the code and go, something's missing here. What do I need? Write it down. Be like, okay, maybe I'll need a count to do this. Maybe I'll need a click function to do this. Think through the actual actions that happen before you think of how to code it, right? Add an image to the image div if you want to. Rob, don't worry about that part. Okay. All right, so we'll spend 20 minutes on that. Feel free to work with a partner, guys, if you want to. Awesome. It helps. You guys work really good together. So. What was that?
It's a bright projector.
Yeah, I know it is. Come on.
Not sure that's the
It could be so like maybe yes,
All right, guys, I'm just gonna put something on the board that should help out a little bit because that syntax is pretty confusing, right? Oops.
that help?
I was ahead of it. Yeah, no. Oh, hi. Good thinking. You can, absolutely can. This is another. Right, how do you? Right. Well, I would say but yes, you're right. You can also give it all class. Class on there. Oh, I know, sorry. For example, so that's fine.
Oh, yeah, I did.
No.
Yeah.
Yes.
What I do.
Yeah. You're doing this as a body. Let's go. We're on. And we're having to run.
Okay. Yeah.
but he does nothing.
Okay, so
Yeah, I wasn't sure.
let's kind of alert.
Yeah.
Push down. Yeah.
So we don't need any parents.
No, it's work because essentially that's what they're saying. Hey, we already know that all the so copy paste that 2 more times, and you can call the other sandwiches, call it.
Yeah.
Next part is the thing which right? So let's do this. Actually, let's do it in that way. Let's do a bar. And then we'll say down here, we'll say, okay, so literally, but then let's do let's do, let's put it in there. Let's do. Say something Oh, sorry. Yes, you're right. You could say.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, that's it.
Okay, so we're not putting it next to.
So let's just say. So what we're gonna do is say, okay, we don't say I'll still put a 0 in there, because I know it's gonna start with 0. Right? That's cool. All right, so that's done. So now you got this alert. I'm actually gonna take it out. So what do I need to say on the call? I'm gonna use that. What do I need to say?
All right, check it out.
Yeah. You guys can tag in there, follow.
Oh, look at him go.
Okay, so. Right? Get it out of the But then how do I add something? So what if I wanted to add HTML to that? And I wanted to be. So give me the jQuery. Let's look at we have
Hey guys, so sorry I'm running super late. So I did miss a couple activities I really wanted to get to. Right, I even seemed to play live for you guys, but I didn't get to use. But I thought it was funny. Awesome.
Did you make that?
Yeah, no, I just found it. Okay. No, somebody else. It's not funny. No, but don't be afraid to ask. This stuff is all the new concepts. Play around with jQuery a lot. On Wednesday, we'll go over some more jQuery stuff, so don't feel too overwhelmed by it. If you have questions, stay after, and we have the office time. We'll just go through some of these things. But play around with it a lot, and just kind of go, okay, I see how this works. I get it. Just kind of feel comfortable with it. jQuery is really fun. Duncan, you liked it right after we did that part. It's cool, right? Yeah. So it's like it's fun once you get the hang of it. So stick around. Yes, I will send out the solution to this activity and the solution to another activity that was supposed to happen. Yeah.
And so homework's due on the 30th, not the Saturday.
It's supposed to be on the 30th. No. Check the weekly. Check the Slack. I think she put it on the Slack.
The Slack that she sent out.
Use that.
She said.
I'm not. Because it's part of that function.
Everything's a little weird right now.
So clearly that the other, this is good exercise. Training I'll send out that solution. Yeah.
Right.